We start off this chapter walking through a crowd of frozen corpses, which isn't really that different from my Canadian winter work commute. We are now in the New West. The last time Sun Wukong and the Journey Gang were here, they fought and defeated Huang Mei, aka Yellowbrow, who was an altar boy and disciple of the Buddha Mila. However, Yellowbrow never fully embraced conventional Buddhist teachings. He rejected the idea that excess human desires should be abandoned in pursuit of enlightenment. He also had beef with Wukong's master because of their differences in religious beliefs, and the two debated many times on topics of human nature and the true meaning of life. For Yellowbrow, human desires like greed, lust, and ambition were natural and therefore should be indulged in and celebrated. His argument was simple. If these desires exist within us, how could they be wrong? To deny them was to deny our very nature. And this might sound like a pretty liberating way of life until you realize that Yellowbrow only wanted his own desires to be fulfilled. His followers were all just slaves and sheep for his golden slaughterhouse. At his core, he considered humans to be beneath him and the Buddhas. In contrast, Wukong's master believed the key to true enlightenment was liberation from excess desires. Only by getting rid of worldly attachments could you be freed from the endless cycles of ecstasy and despair. For him, the ultimate goal was to attain emptiness, a state of peace and mind beyond the grasp of suffering. He also did not like the fact that mortals endured hardships while Buddhas sat in their golden temples. Anyways, their religious and philosophical debates ended like how most debates of this kind end. It didn't. Neither could convince the other of anything. They even wagered bets using humans as the test subjects. However, Yellowbrow would always intervene in sneaky ways and tempt humans into sinful acts, just to prove that it was human nature to be sinful. To which Wukong's master would reply that he once again mistaken consequence for cause. This leads us to a key concept in this chapter and much of the game, which is Yinguo, also known as karma, and it expresses the idea that every action leads to a corresponding consequence, which means positive, kind, and selfless acts will bring good outcomes, while harmful or selfish acts will lead to suffering. Yellowbrow always tried to prove his argument by picking the most susceptible humans, usually the sick and poor, and subjecting them to temptations. And if that didn't turn humans into greedy animals, he would straight up cast a spell on them to light the fuse that would result in an explosion of desires. At the end of which he would say, "See how greedy and sinful humans are," flipping the truth on its head to suit his own needs. So yeah, I can't wait to beat him with my cudgel, which we will likely get to do based on the bosses of the two previous chapters. Anyways, we come across a random monkey eating a peach. He was going to attack us, but decided to wake up the frozen corpses instead.
Clever girl.
The monkey runs away before we can find out who he is and why he wants us dead, but we will find out. And after channeling our inner Jon Snow, we show some White Walkers where we keep our cudgel. After fighting through a few frozen corpses, we once again meet the monkey from earlier, and this time we find out his name is the Macaque Chief, who was one of the 4 generals of the great sage Sun Wukong. He must have escaped here after the downfall of the great sage when Mount Huaguo was being overrun by the celestial army. He looks to be in pretty bad shape and we wonder what he's been through, but he runs away before we can find out, so we move on in our quest to finding the next sacred relic of the great sage. While we travel through this barren tundra, here's some background information on the 4 celestial primates.
There are 4 spiritual primates in this world who fall outside the immortal and mortal creatures of norm. The 4 primates are made up of Ling Ming Shi Ho, the stone monkey of numinous wisdom, who can wield powers of transformations and is able to alter the course of planets and stars. It is likely that Sun Wukong is such a primate as he was born from a stone and possessed the power of transformations. The second is called赤Maho, the red-buttocked horse monkey who wields the knowledge of yin-yang and is able to prolong its lifespan. This is represented by the Macaque Chief. The third is called Tongbi Yuan Ho, the long-armed gibbon, who wields great power and can even manipulate the planets and stars. You might have seen her around the land. She was the first to teach Wukong the ways of life and was essentially his adoptive mother. She later became one of his loyal chiefs. And finally, there is Liu Mi Ho, the 6-eared macaque, who has extremely sensitive hearing and can see the past and the future. He was killed with the help of the Buddha Rulai in Journey to the West, when he transformed into a perfect replica of Wukong.
Okay, enough learning, back to the game. So we just arrived at a rundown temple. This is likely the old temple of Yellowbrow, where he pretended to be a Buddha and tricked Wukong's master Tripitaka into coming here. Like how most Journey to the West stories begin, Tripitaka was tricked and/or kidnapped, which led to Wukong and the gang trying to save him. However, the magical items Yellowbrow stole were just too powerful, and Wukong got trapped inside some magical golden symbols that Yellowbrow stole from the Buddhas. So Chubby, another disciple of Tripitaka, went to the heavenly court for help. He returned with the 28 constellation deities, who were gods that each represented a section of the moon. They helped free the great sage from the golden symbols by using the sharp horns of the deity Kangjin's star. But then they all got sucked into the human seed bag, another stolen magical item. By the way, human seed means exactly what you think it means. What I'm trying to say is that a Buddha got his nutsack stolen. So then the 12 protector deities known as Liu Ding Liu Jia came to help, but they were also absorbed into the bag. Fun fact, Journey to the West is famous for its 5 main pilgrims, but in fact it included a host of other gods as well. The others mostly stayed out of sight like FBI agents protecting the president. Anyways, so then the third prince and his 4 captains came to help too. That's right, the same third prince from the Kingdom of Flowing Sands. He became a disciple of the Bodhisattva Guo Shiwang and was pretty powerful himself. But they also got sucked into the bag. Wukong was basically ready to call it quits when the main character buff card was activated, and the Buddha Mi Look came to help him. We don't know why this bald jerk didn't show up earlier before everyone and their grandma got captured, but the Lord works in mysterious ways, I guess. So the two came up with a plan. Wukong goaded Yellowbrow into chasing him during a hot day and then transformed himself into a melon. That's right, our kind has been catfishing enemies as fruit for years. The Buddha pretended to be a farmer and convinced Yellowbrow into eating the monkey melon. After Wukong landed inside Yellowbrow's stomach, it was short work from there. Wukong was going at it so hard the Buddha had to calm him down so he didn't kill Yellowbrow. They then went back to the temple to collect the stolen magical items and freed everyone from the nutsack. And no one stopped Wukong's rage-induced terrorist attack on the fake Buddhist temple of Yaoguai's. Another case of dying due to lack of powerful connections. The Buddha and Yellowbrow returned to the west, and the Journey Gang continued on their way. So now that you're all caught up on the background lore, let's turn our attention to this flying turkey man.
Still, thy gifts art thy ill. If you seek your own end, I shall not stop you. I, the keeper of the New West, welcome the Destined One.
Maybe we've been taking too many pills, or maybe he's the Tootie Gong of this land. He welcomes us and tells us he has read our fortune, and that what we seek might not be what's good for us. Given how the Buddhas have been helping us with getting these relics, you have to wonder if completing this mission is exactly what they want. It's also worth noting that the keeper of this land called us the Destined One in a mocking tone, almost as if he thinks we're fools for going through with this quest. But despite whatever schemes might be at play, we're committed to seeing this mission through to the end, unlike my Skyrim main quest. Anyways, he transforms us into a bat, and together, we soar across this vast landscape in an instant.
3, 2, 1.
See that temple on the lake? Therein lies the thing you seek. The lord of this land is away. Seize it now and leave.
We arrive at a frozen lake with a small temple in the center. This temple is actually a nod to the iconic chase scene of transformations in Journey to the West. It's a reference to the epic showdown between Erlang Shen and Wukong, where the two shapeshifted into various creatures until Wukong finally turned into a temple. His eyes became the windows, his mouth the door, and his tail was the flagpole in the back, a mistake that Erlang Shen noticed, since flagpoles are typically placed at the front of temples. Anyways, it looks like the third sacred relic is hidden right beneath the ice, and it seems to be some kind of aquatic creature. But before we can break the ice and grab it, a familiar face appears.
How delightful. It still recalls your scent. When that monkey was alive, he was all about weeping and begging for help. Now, even in death, he led all you younglings right to me. This sack of mine can barely fit you all.
The chubby kid from the start of this chapter shows up. We actually saw him turn into a statue when we first arrived in the New West, and he ignored us like the popular kids at school. But he swapped his blue robe for a yellow one, and he finally talks to us, with way too much baddie attitude. From a scale of NPC to boss fight, he registers a 10. Could this be Yellowbrow in disguise? But shouldn't he be chilling in Buddha jail back in the real West? And why does he have the human seed bag again? There's no way such a powerful magical item could get stolen twice, right? Also, if this really is Yellowbrow, we've got to get his anti-aging secrets. It's also possible this isn't Yellowbrow at all. It could be the Buddha Mila, since the statue he turned into at the beginning was of that Buddha. Maybe he took a turn to the dark side? Either way, we are going to swing our cudgel first and ask questions later.
I choose violence.
During his Bond villain monologue, he mentions that others came here too, and as we wonder who else we might run into, he unleashes Kang Loong.
See if this monkey merits a place among my disciples.
AKA Kang Jin Star, the same constellation deity that helped Wukong escape the golden symbols. We barely break a sweat as we fight this Asian Blue Eyes white dragon. And this brings us to the beginning of the video. Just kidding, we survived. Actually, nope, we're dead. Never mind, we're alive. We wake up in what appears to be a hellhole. But you can also call it the Pagoda Realm. And for the 100th time, a disembodied voice talks to us.
It be now a deity or a
It seems that Yellowbrow has been imprisoning both gods and Yaoguais for some time now. As we wonder who else might be captured, we meet our first enemy, a door. My years of gaming experience tells me this jail door probably needs a nat 20 roll to open. Or it's not locked. Maybe they forgot to lock it, or maybe there are hidden forces working in the dark to help us. Anyways, as we pass by a jail cell with a purple seal on it, the prisoner warns us to stay where we are because wanderers meet their demise here. But we're not too worried because in the wise words of Confucius, one cannot lose if one's name and face are on the cover. It turns out he was the one talking to us earlier. The prisoner also mentions that he recognizes our odor, hinting that he either knew us or Sun Wukong, as Elder Jinchi said the same thing when he mistaken us for the Great Sage. We try to ignore all the comments on our highly memorable BO and move on in our search for loot, side quests, and the sacred relic. Maybe we'll start by finding a way to open the jail cells. But before we can figure that out, a bell suddenly chimes in the distance, and we're thrown into a red-eye state. Our max HP takes a nosedive, but our damage gets a boost. And as if things weren't weird enough, lantern-headed Yaoguais appear out of nowhere. After taking one down, we realize they only become visible when we hear the cursed chime. Checking the journal, we learn the horrifying truth. These lantern wardens were made from human corpses. They were once craftsmen tasked with rebuilding Yellowbrow's old temple, but when their work was done, they were hunted down in the dead of night and killed. Perhaps the last thing they ever saw was the glow of their lanterns. And this all had something to do with the chubby child and a tall four-legged creature he controls, both of whom we will have to defeat in order to free their victims and ensure no one else gets hurt. After exploring this place a bit, we realize the Pagoda Realm serves a dual purpose. It's both a prison for Yellowbrow's enemies and a testing ground for his most ruthless disciples. The ringing bell forces everyone into a red-eyed frenzy, ensuring brutal, all-out battles where only the strongest and most vicious survive. It's a twisted system. Part torture for prisoners, part culling for the weak. Yellowbrow also thrives on psychological manipulation, so using the disorienting sound of the bell to weaken minds makes it easier for him to control his targets. What's even more disturbing is how he treats his own disciples with the same cruelty as his enemies. His so-called enlightened teaching is nothing but bait to lure in unsuspecting victims. After Yellowbrow uses them up, he discards them all, mostly by letting them freeze to death in the snow. And once again, the Buddhists sit in their golden temples, watching others suffer. Perhaps they should have gotten rid of Yellowbrow hundreds of years ago, instead of sparing his life and allowing him to do harm once more. We don't know for sure why the Buddhas are doing this, but one thing is certain, what Yellowbrow is doing benefits them somehow. Perhaps they don't mind Yellowbrow wreaking havoc in the mortal realm if it means he also traps gods of the celestial court like Kang Star, weakening their primary competition for power. Or perhaps like what happened with the Kingdom of Flowing Sands in Chapter 2, the Buddhas need a certain amount of chaos in the mortal realm. After all, it's in moments of desperation that mortals are most likely to turn to worshipping them for salvation and guidance. Speaking of Kang Star, the journal reveals that she came to the New West to investigate the disappearance of a fellow deity, Dawnstar. Dawnstar had helped Wukong multiple times in Journey to the West against Yao Guais that had a weakness against roosters, and they became friends. In fact, the constellation deities were all proud to call Wukong their friend, until his downfall. After his final fallout with the Buddhas and the Celestial Court, those same friends all fell silent and distanced themselves. Anyways, Kang Star discovered that Yellowbrow was holding a grand ceremony in the New West around the same time Dawnstar went missing. Using the event as a cover, she came here to investigate. And this wasn't just any ceremony. Yao Guais, gods, immortals, and even Buddhas were all invited. Once again, we're left questioning how someone as treacherous as Yellowbrow is allowed to have so much power and freedom, while Wukong, who only wanted to return home, was the one that had to go. To complicate matters further, Kang Star now appears to be working for that scheming chubby child. Why she's teamed up with such an evil figure is yet another mystery we'll have to solve. And after coming up with a bunch of conspiracy theories involving gods and Buddhas, we continue to climb upwards toward the light, since it seems to be the only way out. The alternative is the dark abyss below, which we actually visited several times because air walls don't exist here. When the world needed it most, it vanished. We fight more enemies along the way and learn from their journals that some of them were from the kingdom of Yaksha. The Yakshas were a clan of powerful beings. Their most honored generals were even taught by the Buddhas themselves. However, the Yaksha king somehow incurred the wrath of the heavenly court, which resulted in the massacre of the Yaksha royal family, and the inhabitants of the kingdom were all exiled from the land. The Buddhas did nothing to stop the heavenly court, and the Jade Hitler had his way once more. The reason for the extermination of the Yakshas was a mystery, and any official excuse the heavenly court uses would be a lie. Perhaps the Yakshas were becoming too powerful and refused to be controlled. Maybe it's the same reason the great sage had to die. It seems that Yellowbrow has been offering refuge to these exiled Yakshas, making them work for him. In fact, he seems to be taking in a lot of people in need of refuge. This also explains why we met Wukong's ex-general the Macaque Chief here. He must have escaped Mount Hua Guo and sought refuge with Yellowbrow, so it's very likely that he's working for him too now and wants us dead. Anyways, along the way, we see a purple lightsaber with a life bar and beat him with our cudgel. After defeating him, all the purple seals are removed and the jail doors open. We go back to the prisoner from earlier and realize that he's the third prince of the Kingdom of Flowing Sands.
Oh, it's you. You're still alive. But I see you've slain one of my captains and helped yourself to break in. 4 loyal captains. Now 4 bewildered souls.
He and his 4 captains came to investigate the ceremony as well, but they were all captured by Yellowbrow. His captains all fell under Yellowbrow's spell and transformed into monsters. The purple guy we just fought, Captain Lotus Vision, was one of them, and he became a jailer for Yellowbrow. The third prince took out his own eyes and hearing to prevent Yellowbrow from messing with his mind and controlling him, but he was not completely spared. The fight has completely gone out of the prince and he feels hopeless now. The once idealistic youth is gone. These days, he mutters to himself a lot and asks why his master, the Buddha Guo Shiwang, who is famed for defeating evil Yao Guais, has not come to save him. That is a very good question, young prince, one that I hope to have answered as well. Finally, he asks us to free the 3 remaining captains from their curse, and we promise him that we will. Once again, we embark on our upward climb towards the top. And after we finally climb out of that literal hellhole, we find out what's been causing the red-eye frenzy and the secret behind that giant metal contraption in the center of the Pagoda Realm. There are a ton of epic mysteries and hidden lore left to uncover in this chapter, so smash that subscribe button to stay updated on the next video, where everything will be revealed. See you next time!